Hey everyone, I wanted to create a quick video to go over the Ludum Dare 46, what I tried to build, what I ended up getting built, and sort of like what ended up happening. So on Friday night, Ludum Dare, or Ludum Dare, as some people pronounce it, 46 started. The theme was Keep It Alive, and I had all intentions to make a game during a weekend and stream it. In fact, I started the stream, and unfortunately, the computer that I had just wasn't having any of it. For the last couple of times that I've been streaming, when I've been doing some Rust programming, and I started the compilation process, it brought OBS down to its knees. Specifically, my OBS started taking like over 500% CPU, and I started getting like 1 frame per second being streamed out, and then that caused massive delays. I tried rebooting the computer, and it just got worse. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to stream myself making this game, and that did do a number on my well, sort of like my inspiration and everything else. So I didn't actually end up finishing making a game. There's a lot that I really feel like could have gone into it, and I'm a little bit disappointed in that way. However, that was the motivation for me to go ahead and buy a desktop computer. So I have ordered one, and I mean, it might take like a month or so to get here because of the entire COVID delays happening. But that should make future streams where I'm doing Rust a lot better. But let's get into like what I was able to make. So let's just go ahead and run this right now. So what I have is this idea of an egg here, and we're trying to protect it. And so we've got an entire guy that we can move around. We can shoot bullets, and then these are supposed to be birds that are protecting us. Even right now, running with OBS, it's actually a lot slower than if I run this game on its own. So that's just like in recording and not even streaming. It is if we let the bird get to the egg, it kills it and ends the game. And of course, I've got an entire scoring system. Now, behind the scenes, I use GGEZ. I was planning on using the BBGGEZ library that we had created earlier, but there wasn't like too many options for us using it. I think partially because I had decided that I wanted to use specs. I had these grand plans that I wanted to have lots of entities being created. Whenever I fired a gun, there'd be like little trails of everything, and when I hit a bird, there'd be like sparkles everywhere, just tons and tons of entities. And I figured an entity component system like specs would be perfect for handling that. But I think because it was a very simple game, it ended up actually being slower than if I just did it the traditional way that I had been creating everything beforehand. Just making a struct for a bird, a struct for the egg, a struct for the player, and going on that direction. It is definitely something that I've learned a lot about, which is when to use specs and when not. I think I want to stick to using specs for more of the simulations where I have tons of things on the screen at the same time, and it's going to be very almost like simplified. So I'm thinking like a flocking algorithm where like birds flocking around, or maybe like trying to simulate fire or something like that. For this, however, I think the more traditional method would have been better. And then if I do feel the need to bring in specs, probably only bring it in for whatever I'm going to have lots of entities in. I ended up having, and if we dive into the code a little bit here, we can see in the main library, I, for example, have only 1 egg, but I'm adding into the world as if it's its own thing. Of course, I have, okay, it has a position and that's being shared, and I have my object mesh, But because I'm doing the object mesh this way and handing it into specs, I'm having to clone that. Now with the egg, that's not too big of a deal. But with all the birds, that is actually a much bigger deal because I'm having to clone and create completely new meshes for every single bird. Now I am killing the birds when I shoot them, so that should make them go out of memory, but it is adding a lot more per frame when I'm adding them every, I think, like 3 seconds, or maybe even less than that. It might be every like second or so. So I think that like the player, the egg, they didn't have to be in specs most likely. In fact, like almost nothing of this really needed to be in there. Maybe the bullets, but I only like gave myself 3 of them. I was planning on adding in poops, but that's when I ran out of time. Sort of like add that in there. I was really hoping that the entire specs thing would be, okay, set that up. That might take a little bit of time, and then everything else would be a lot faster going in. But I actually found that the way I had coded it, unfortunately meant that I had to go back and refactor a whole bunch of things. I did learn that I could use, I probably should use these, what are they called? They're like tracker, marker structs. So I'm basically have a component named bullet, and it doesn't do anything. It has no storage. It has a null storage, in fact. But I added into all the bullets. So that way when I do queries and say, okay, give me all the positions and velocities of the bullets. And that way I can just update those without worrying that I'm maybe accidentally updating the player. So I didn't start with that, unfortunately. That was something that I did like late Saturday, and it did help a lot, but there was a little bit of refactoring, sort of like, oh, let me change all those all the functions, all the systems to like now be using these. And it also meant that quite a few of these were not quite as clean as I was hoping they would be. So I think that's really where I ended up with this entire experience in game. And I do realize that I didn't spend as much time on it as I would have if I had been streaming the entire time. Unfortunately, because I wasn't streaming, I allowed myself to, not program most of the day. I, took time off, did some other things, ordered a computer, and I'm hoping that next time, so Ludum Dare is now every 6 months. So in half a year, when it happens again, I'm hoping that things will work out a lot better. I'll have a new computer, and things should work out a lot better because of that. Now the next thing is game making. I use GGEZ, and I really do like GGEZ for the creative coding that I have been doing, which is kind of like making art, sort of game of life is doing simulations. I also see it as like making art with code. And GGEZ is based upon Love 2D, which is a game framework in Lua, but that itself was based upon processing, which is very much tailored to making art or programming with Arduinos, depending upon which side of the programming coin you land on. And I definitely see that a lot here. I love GGEZ for making art, which is ironic because GG is sort of good game. I do want to experiment around with some other game engines to see, how do I feel about working with them? Specifically for making games quickly. Because making interfaces in GGEZ was not very fun. Even the very basic interface that I had, where it's like the end screen and game over, that just took too long, and I was very jealous watching some other coders on Twitch as they were able to stream, and how using graphical GUI tools were able to make their interfaces. And of course, I know I could use something like Photoshop or to make an interface and bring it as an image and maybe just display that. But I have heard that there is a game engine that is kind of sort of based upon Unity, but can could potentially be used with Rust. I think it's Godot or Godot, depending upon how you pronounce it. I'm not sure how the maker pronounces it yet. So I might want to look into that to see like, okay, well, what would that give me, game making wise? And could I still use Rust for that? Or would I have to switch over to something like C#? And if I had to switch over to C#, then I might as well just use something like Unity. Anyways, all things for me to sort of look into for next time. But lessons learned so far is specs is great, but maybe not for simple games like this, especially if I don't have that many entities all at the same time. Where if there's lots of different entities, I might as well just go with my own way. And interface design, doing it completely through code without any kind of other framework to help me out really is not fun at all. Anyways, I'm still looking forward to using GGEZ for creative coding, so keep an eye out for those in the future. And I plan on still doing some game development type things and other programming stuff. And I'm definitely not giving up Rust, although I may not be able to stream it until the new computer arrives. Anyways, I just wanted to give a heads up on how this all went down and what that was, what the Ludum Dare outcome was. And yeah, that's all I've got. Anyways, I'm hoping that you're having a great week, and I'll see you at my next live stream whenever that is. Have a good one.